cut both sides of the neck. Make sure he hits both jugulars. Leave the esophagus intact so it can still breathe, so it can bleed out fine. And then he'll die, or she will die, and then a few minutes later the spirit will leave. And once the spirit's gone, she's available to go into the hot water, which is about 145 to 150 degrees. So what you do is you take both legs, submerge the turkey completely, and after a few seconds, you're gonna wanna drain it, let it go, come back in. You leave it in there without pulling it out, you're gonna end up scalding the skin a little bit and the skin's gonna rip. And then your judgment when in perfect timing for them to get deep plucked is when you can pull the feathers out very easily. Which you can kind of see now I'm doing it right on the wing. So that looks good. Turn the automatic chicken plucker on. Save as much water as you can and toss her in. And usually what I'll do, because this plucker is meant for chickens, I'll pull all the tail feathers out right away. Wing feathers. Let it tumble around a little bit. That looks about great.
And voila!
And boom! Some of these are a little harder to get because this plucker's size too small for turkeys, but a pretty good job.
Awesome.
There you go. And then on to eviscerating.
So the first thing that I do with a turkey is I will take the feet off, and if you move the ankle joint in a hinge like this, you can feel where there's right in between the two knuckles of the bones. That's where you want to cut.
Because I told her I was in the slacker and then it broke.
Okay, so we got our feet off. Next thing that I do, because it's something that I always forget, is right on the tail here, there are 2 oil glands. And you want to just cut down the bone of the tail. And cut these 2 oil glands off. So now we've got our feet removed, we've got the oil gland cut off of the tail. The next thing that we want to do is remove the head. Now, we have the esophagus and the crop that run along the neck. So what I do is I break the neck and just pull the head right off. Otherwise, if you try to run a knife through the neck bones, you end up just dulling your knife. And then I make a slit up the neck so that I can get to this esophagus and this crop area. And so I loosen all this material around the neck bone, so now everything is separated. And just inside of here, there's like a little balloon feeling like thing called the crop. It's a lot more stretchy and hard to grab. And this tube right here is the crop. And that's where they store food. So I reach in there, and it's like a big balloon that's pressed against the breast. And just like that, now I've pulled out the crop. The next thing that we're gonna do is I make a small incision just above the cloaca, about 1.5 inches wide. And then I cut a V shape around the cloaca, trying to keep everything intact because the cloaca obviously is attached to the intestine, and the intestine is full of poop. And we do not want to get poop on the inside of our animal. I want to leave as much skin here as possible, and the reason that I do that is because I like to make a separate little slit right here, and I will actually take the feet and tuck them inside of the skin like this, and it makes for a really nice presentation for your bird. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the lower entrails. What I do is I reach by the neck and I grab for the big, like baseball feeling organ first, right here, which is the gizzard. And I'll pull the gizzard, and just behind that will come the liver and the intestines. So now I've pulled the lower entrails. We have the gizzard here, we have the intestines here, there's the, I think it's the gallbladder right here, and then our intestines. Here's our lower entrails, we'll set those aside. The next thing that you can feel is actually just hanging inside, and this is the heart. Now these are all pretty simple. The one thing that people kind of have a challenge with now is on the back, along the rib cage, is this goopy looking stuff, and that's the lungs. And the lungs tend to be a little bit harder to get out. So I've got one lung, I've got two lungs. I can feel that nice clean rib cage in the back, and this bird is eviscerated. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up close to the breast, being careful not to break the skin of the breast. And I cut a little bit of the meat. And this is where we cut the neck. Okay, so I've got the neck removed. This we always give out with the turkey. If people want to make stocks or anything like that, they can save the neck. And also, if you're a farmer and you are raising turkeys like this on a small scale for production, this is weight, right? If you're charging $5 a pound for your bird, this is an extra, what, $2 or $3 that you will get paid for every single turkey if you include this on the inside of your bird. Now that I have the bird set aside, I'm going to want to separate the gizzard out, because the gizzard is going to go with the customer.
They're like jumping twice. Oh, keep going.
I've got my gizzard set aside, and then I've got my heart set aside. And then now we have the liver. Now attached to the liver is, I think it's the gallbladder?
Yep.
This gallbladder has like a nasty green goo in it that you do not want to cut into. So I always tell people to err on the side of cutting more liver away than cutting into that thing. And so here we go. So we've cut our liver. Heart, liver, gizzard. So the gizzard is where the turkeys will swallow rocks, and they stay packed in the gizzard, and this is what they actually use to chew their food, since they have beaks. We'll cut into the gizzard, and you can hear the stones falling out of it. This is the gravel that the turkey has swallowed in order to process its food. Now, before these gizzards go out, they have a skin on the inside of the gizzard. I don't even know if it's a skin or like a lining, I guess would be a better name for it. And so that, which is an absolute pain in the butt to get off, needs to be peeled away before these are sent out. There we go. Here's your gizzard. Welcome back to Evergreen Organic. Chaz had an incident with a steer that he came out into the pasture and it was injured. This steer was supposed to go to slaughter in a couple weeks, but unfortunately, if a steer can't walk into a slaughterhouse, the meat can't be sold for human consumption. So we're gonna break down this steer into primals today. This is not meat that's gonna be sold to anybody. This is just gonna be the farmer's share. So Chaz skinned and gutted the steer yesterday, and right now I'm just using a Sawzall to get the front of it broken. We're gonna open it up and get this thing cut in half before we break it down into the primals. Unfortunately, this thing is frozen solid, so not an ideal situation, but we do the best with what we've got. It's supposed to be 45 degrees next week, so hopefully this thing thaws out enough that it can age for a little bit, and then we'll break it down from there. So. Oh, I guess we can take a second to talk about the primals here. We've got the round, we've got the flap. Right along here, this is where your short loin or your New York strip is. As that muscle travels further up, it turns into the ribeye. You've got your plate down here, which is where short ribs come from. On the inside of the plate is where skirt steak comes from. The inside of the flap is where flank steak comes from. Some people call it flank. There's also a flap or bavette steak that's there. Further up here, you've got your beef shank here. And then you've got, this is your chuck here, and then down on the chest or the pectoral there, that's your brisket.
What's your favorite cut?
My favorite cut is called an oyster steak, but you'll almost never see them unless you go into a custom butcher shop. If I remember correctly, you cut between the 12th and the 13th rib. And the first rib starts up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So between the 12th and the 13th. Just like that. Now we've got our beef forequarter and hind quarter. We'll do the same thing on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12th and 13th. We got a cameraman helping us out over there.
I see a different place.
Dude, good job.
Really? It actually looks really better.
Hey, good for you. Thanks, Logan. I appreciate your help. It's not easy running the camera. Let me tell you, it's been a big learning curve for this guy.